What's up, Star Wars fans? Let's review the season finale of The Bad Batch Season 2. I found episode 15 and 16 to be some of the best episodes we've ever gotten in The Bad Batch. So let's start by breaking down the first episode titled The Summit. And not surprisingly, episode 15 starts back on Pabu. I just love how interconnected all these episodes have been. Echo and Tech have been searching through Imperial files, trying to find more about the Advanced Science Division and its leader, Dr. Hemlock. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to find much, but luckily Echo has a contact that tips him off that Dr. Hemlock will be attending this summit meeting, and after a brief debate as to whether or not they should really be rescuing Crosshair, the Batch decide to infiltrate this meeting and place a tracking beacon on Dr. Hemlock's ship. And after a brief goodbye between Tech and his love interest, Fee, the Bad Batch are off on their adventure. We then get to see Dr. Hemlock showing up to the summit, which I was surprised only includes a very small amount of Imperial leaders, one of which was interestingly Director Krennic. And of course, with such high-ranking Imperials, security is extremely tight, and the only way the Bad Batch are able to approach the planet is because Echo's able to use a clearance code that he's acquired along with Rex. From there, the Bad Batch are able to set down just outside the Imperial base, and using a rail system, they're able to make their way to the base, which is at the summit of a mountain. Certainly, everything seems to be going just fine for the Batch when we get to see some of that Imperial meeting. Dr. Hemlock tells us that his cloning efforts are very important to the Emperor, and that his Advanced Science Division's main goal is to uncover the secrets of cloning only previously known by the Kaminoans. And when we rejoin the Bad Batch, everything again seems to be going as planned, until we come across the twist of this episode, and that is that Saw Gerrera and his rebels have also infiltrated this base and are planning on blowing it sky high. And unfortunately for the Bad Batch, that means destroying Dr. Hemlock's ship and the tracking beacon that they successfully planted on it. But it also means that the Bad Batch lose power in the rail car as they're trying to escape the base. It goes from being another Bad Batch adventure to being a whole lot more serious, because the Bad Batch are trapped on this rail car, which looks to be thousands of feet in the air. Another rail car versus stormtroopers has them pinned down, and to make matters worse, V-Wings are on their way to attack them. And this is where episode 15 ends and episode 16, Plan 99, begins. And as we've seen in so many other episodes of the Bad Batch, it's up to Tech to get them out of this situation. He has to use his technical skills to repower that train car and get them going again. But unfortunately for the Batch, the V-Wings get in some good shots on their tram car, and tragically, as Tech makes his way back from rebooting the tram car's power, a V-Wing gets in a good shot, and Tech loses his footing and falls, and unfortunately his grappling device and rope are attached to the side of the tram that are falling apart. In a very dramatic moment where Wrecker and Omega are trying to rescue Tech, he decides to sacrifice himself so that the rest of the Batch can escape. It was truly a death worthy of a hero, and Tech joins the ranks of those heroes in Star Wars that have sacrificed themselves so that others may escape, such as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Kanan Jarrus, just to mention a couple. And of course, this contributes to that major Star Wars theme of self-sacrifice and the importance of putting others before yourself. And at this point, it's also easy to see why Tech receives so much character development this season, like his connection to Omega, or even Fee like I mentioned earlier. The character of Tech was given a lot more depth so that when he does die this season, for dedicated fans like us, it felt absolutely horrendous. But getting back to the story, Hunter and his crew are on a tram that's completely out of control. They crash, and at this point I'm thinking, who else is going to die? I mean, it certainly looked like somebody should be dead after that crash, but thankfully we don't lose anybody else, and the crew is able to make their way back to Ord Mantell. And the only reason they do this is because the droid EZ is there, the medical droid from the finale of last year, who's able to patch up the remainder of the Bad Batch. But as I predicted in how the Bad Batch Season 2 will end, Sid actually alerts the Empire, and Dr. Hemlock and his troops show up to take in the Bad Batch. And even though Hunter gives Omega every opportunity to escape, she just can't do it. She can't leave behind Hunter and the rest of the Batch. Batch, which makes a lot of sense. She's traumatized by the loss of Tech, and she doesn't want to lose anyone else. So ultimately, Hemlock is able to capture Omega, Wrecker, Hunter, and Echo are able to escape the planet, and we get to see Omega arrive at Mount Tantus, the advanced science facility known as Wayland. And despite the fact I didn't think much was going to be revealed here at the end, there were definitely some big moments. The first of which is that Nalase says that Dr. Hemlock's plans are impossible, strongly hinting that Dr. Hemlock's goal is not just to learn about how to clone from the Kaminoans, but most likely to clone a Force-sensitive individual, so that the Emperor himself could be cloned with even his Force powers. That said, it's also revealed that Crosshair is alive, and in a weird twist, Dr. Hemlock's female assistant is also a clone and therefore Omega's sister. That all said, I really enjoyed Season 2 of The Bad Batch. I think there's a lot of potential for this to be a much more mature show. Certainly there would be a lot of opportunity for Hunter and The Bad Batch to embrace their dark side and really struggle with making the right moral decisions without Omega around. But hey, more on that in my predictions for Season 3 video coming out tomorrow morning. If you've been enjoying my reviews of The Bad Batch Season 2, then please stick with me for the rest of The Mandalorian Season 3, as I'll be publishing early reviews of each of those remaining episodes. That said, as always, I'm Mike, and remember, the Force will be with you always.